Hey, John, welcome to the Ecom Crew podcast.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you coming and doing this. This is one of our under the hood segments. We've been doing these now for a while, but it's been a while since we've actually done one. For people who are new to the Ecom Crew podcast, the under the hood segment is an opportunity for you to come talk to us for free. We take that content and turn it into a podcast. So I think it's good for the people that are talking to us. It's great value back to the community. So if you ever want to come talk to us for free for an hour, kind of a free coaching call, and have it become a podcast, which will hopefully help other members, go over to ecomcrew.com/underthehood. We'd love to hear from you. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while, like I'm sure you have, John, and you probably know the first question I always love to ask on this segment, which is, how did you get into e-commerce?
We got into e-commerce because I got really tired of bringing orders to supplement shops, and I was tired of them not listening to my ordering protocols. We started at a farmer's market. The business is me and my mom. She's the French pastry chef. I do a lot of the other stuff. And we started at farmers markets, started selling out, went into some of the local supplement shops here locally in Houston and started selling out. And I found myself more and more of my time was spent as a delivery driver. But it wasn't enough that I could make, I couldn't hire a delivery driver yet. So I was looking for a way that we could expand our growth without having to have me constantly drive everywhere. And I thought, okay, Amazon is, a huge platform, and let's see if we can compete with the best in the world. And so we jumped on.
Very cool. And I guess maybe there's a prequel question to this one, because typically people get into e-commerce as where their first sales come from. It sounds like you guys had a business before you were in e-commerce. So you were driving these goods around the local farmers markets and shops. How did you get into creating that business? I mean, and maybe even mention what the brand is real quick.
For sure. So we created Ketonia because I've been keto since 2011. And my mom has been a French pastry chef since 2009. About 5 years ago, I convinced her to try keto. She lost 60 pounds, started making a bunch of delicious keto treats, and for a while we joked like, oh, we're going to quit our jobs and start this business. And then finally I was like, look, I'm quitting my job. You should quit your job. Let's actually do this.
Very cool. Now I've been to France, and I don't remember much about anything being keto over at the pastry shops in Paris. It was like maybe the butter's keto, I guess, right?
Well, and I think that's really one of the things that sets us apart is my mom feels the same way you do. She used to just the scowl that she would give me when I would say I don't want to have any croissants because I'm on keto. She would just, she didn't understand it. But then
right.
The great part is that with one of our products, we make a keto bread mix, and part of the kind of value add, because we're a small business, right? I don't have unlimited capital. A lot of people, when I talk to some of these bigger retailers, they say, oh, can you make more products, right? Do you have more products? And we do, but obviously, more than anyone, inventory costs money, and it grows more than you would think. It's not a linear growth per SKU. And when you're a really small business, for us, it wasn't feasible to keep just adding new products and adding new products. So what we did is we took our bread mix and then made about 300 or so recipes out of it. And then we put those all online. And that's kind of like the gist of our social media and content marketing strategy.
Gotcha. Makes a lot of sense. So first product's the bread mix. Why bread mix? I mean, there's, all these other keto products out there, keto cookies, keto snacks, keto fried chicken. And I mean, it goes like you go down the keto aisle and
when we first got onto Amazon, our first product was actually our coconut macaroons, and they just happened to be our best seller. And they also were a product that I knew with minimal amount of bubble wrap could be done direct to consumer, because we also have a cheese straw, but it absolutely just gets destroyed in the direct to consumer shipping process. So we shelved that one. The coconut macaroons came out. They spent maybe about a year and a half at number one in the category of macaroons. Then we had some of these, venture capital funded competitors come in, and now I think we hover in the top 5, but I focus less on that and more on just profitability, and then some of these larger retail deals that we've been getting through ECRM and RangeMe.
Gotcha. And so you started this, you said 5 years ago now, right?
So we actually started the business 3 years ago. I mean, we officially filed the LLC 3 years ago, but we started,
3 years. Okay.
Yeah, we started my mom started product development 5 years ago. We had her house got flooded during Harvey. And so it kind of paused our rollout a little bit, but
Sucks.
Man, it's you learn things from everything. So it's not, thankfully no one that I knew was hurt, and all of our stuff had insurance. So, you move on.
So what have the last 3 years look like for you then? I mean, you got started on Amazon, you had this successful macaroon product, competitors come in and make your life difficult, but I mean, it sounds like you're still selling. I mean, number 5, and that's a pretty competitive category, still pretty decent. Have you launched more SKUs? What have sales look like? Let's kind of talk about the journey a little bit.
Okay, so the journey when we started the coconut macaroons, we launched, we went to a convention called KetoCon and lined it up and went KetoCon, then Prime Day, and we went pretty quickly to number 1, and that sales were great. Probably about $30,000 a month worth of sales. And so I guess this is the part where I tell you all of the things that I've messed up in the 3 years that I've done this. Things that I've got to learn the hard way. You can spend too much on ads, which I know doesn't sound like something that should be any surprise to anyone, but I kind of had to I learned that the hard way. Over the journey, so it stayed pretty similar, right? We launched the coconut macaroons. The sales did okay. We've been trying to find it. We had been trying to find a co-packer, right? Because me and my mom were in the kitchen actually hand scooping all of these coconut macaroons, and it made the business really difficult. So the first task that we really were trying to find was, how do we find co-packers so that it's not me and her trying to scale this business. And so one of the things that happened was I didn't cover all of my NDA bases as well as I probably should have. So we had a competitor come in. It's funny because like the design problems that I had talked with this co-packer about, they didn't even fix when they made the product. So it was like we had talked about them making a little cylinder shaped coconut macaroon, and then a competitor, lo and behold, comes out with a little cylinder shaped macaroon. So that slowed the coconut macaroon sales a little bit. They didn't dislodge us from our spot, but it just, more competitors, and the sales went down a little bit. Then the reason that we wanted to bring the bread mix out is because when we were at the farmer's market, the bread mix was our best seller, and I couldn't find a way to get the logistics to work, right? It's just so hard to ship fresh bread to people that's not just absolutely laden with preservatives and all kinds of stuff like that. And even if you do that, it's still, you got 14 days, so you're going to need to 2 days ship it, and nobody wants to pay $30 for a thing of bread. So the bread mix was kind of like our way to increase our SKUs, but minimize, all of the things that come with adding a new SKU. And then, unfortunately, COVID happened. Actually, COVID happened earlier, but the real thing that's been hard for us in the last 6 months is just the unrelenting rise of these prices. So like our bread mix, the number one ingredient is Vital Wheat Gluten. Last November, I bought Vital Wheat Gluten at 88 cents a pound. The last spot price that I saw was $2.49 if I buy 3 pallets worth, but it has gotten as high as $3.15.
Wow.
And that it's kind of the story across the board, right? So then I was talking with my CFO. One of the big things that all of the craziness that's happened since COVID really made me realize is that I can't run this business on cash accounting, and I'm not smart enough to understand how to implement accrual accounting. So, or I wasn't able to, I didn't think I could handle the job on my own. So I hired a firm to come and help me kind of get all the books switched over to accruals so that we can have a much better idea, or any idea really, because if you're doing cash basis, I mean, you don't have reliable numbers that you can use for anything. If you're doing at least manufacturing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at the numbers, we're going, okay, we had a great January this year, right? We sold almost $50,000 of product, but then when you actually look at it on an accrual basis, it was our worst month. And so I'm looking at it going, okay, well, what can we do? How can we, hedge this? And so unfortunately, then we got to deal with the fun of all of these things kind of took place at once, right? The prices went up on my ingredients, and so I had to raise the price of my product. When you're in grocery, if you bump over $14.99 in price, you bump from a 7% fee to a 15% fee. And then pretty much about the exact same time that all of that was happening, Amazon did their own across the board increase on fees, and that kind of coincided a lot with some of their storage limits. And so we had to raise our prices, and the sales took a big hit. Thankfully, we had already really been focusing a lot on the retail space, the actual physical space, because there's just so much more of a presence when it comes to grocery in person. People like to buy stuff and eat it right now. And so while we didn't want to, I would never turn something off that's paying the bills, right? Because as much problems as I have with Amazon, they are 95% of our business. And every time that we've tried going to a Shopify model. I have a Shopify store. It's how we got verified on Pinterest. But, I just felt like anything that I did in the e-commerce space that wasn't driving traffic or driving sales on Amazon, it couldn't, even if I make 5 or 10% more doing my sales on Shopify, every lost sale on Amazon hurts, right? That flywheel. And so we really just went back to focusing all of the traffic, all of our e-commerce efforts on Amazon, and then just also having a more long game strategy of developing relationships with some large retailers here in the States.
Yeah, and those retailers can really help the whole Amazon thing as well, because people go buy things at retail, stuff's in their home, they're buying stuff on Amazon as well. They're co-shopping both at the grocery store and on Amazon, and scan the barcode and they show up the next day. So it could definitely help. I think the retail presence can definitely help with the Amazon part. Yeah, I mean, all of us are dealing with these struggles right now. I mean, it's sick to kind of hear that your COGS are going up 3x. I'm sure you have not been able to raise your retail price 3x to compensate for it. I also wasn't aware that they had a discounted referral fee for grocery. We don't do anything in that space, so I just never really pay attention. But it sounds like if you go from $14.99 to $15.99, you actually make less when at that $1, like actually all goes to Amazon, because the fees are $7.5%. So it's like almost exact. I mean, never do math on the fly, but it's like actually more than $1, I think, right? Because of that increase. I mean, it's crazy that phenomenon exists.
Yes, and then to make matters even worse, at least back in the day when we started selling on Amazon, you were able to respond to customers who leave 1-star reviews and say things like, "You're price gouging," and it's like, no, I promise I make less money now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Amazon's review system is kind of crazy. And I mean, the reviews of the price stuff like drives me crazy, because it's just like, if you don't like the price, then don't buy it. Don't buy it and then and then leave a 1-star review because you don't like the price. It makes no sense to me. It's like no one put a gun to your head to buy the darn thing to begin with. Like you bought it. If you enjoy it, it's worth the money. If not, if you don't think it's worth the money, then don't buy it again. But leaving a review based on the price has always been weird to me. So, okay. So let me just kind of recap. I think just to kind of, because I think we've set the stage, and I want to give you opportunity to ask some of the questions you have. But you have a business you started with your mom, kind of a passion project. You're both into keto and love, living that lifestyle. Started about 3 years ago, doing sounds like maybe $700,000 a year right now in sales on Amazon, maybe 500,000 depending on that. It sounded like that first month this year you were at 500K would have got you to 600,000 this year, but you weren't making as much. So, but something in that range. And I think, at this point you're just probably interested in asking questions on how do you grow from here? Like what does life from here look like? So with that in mind, feel free to ask any questions you have, and we'll do our best to help you out here.
Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to ask is since we have a brand store, and I'm trying to optimize my advertising strategy. I talked a little bit earlier. We make a lot of recipe videos, and I try to. I have been driving my traffic to my website and then trying to collect their email and kind of get them acclimated with the recipes and then send that over to Amazon, right? And so I can optimize for click-through from my website to Amazon, and I can use Amazon attribution to see what percentage of those people go ahead after that and make a sale. But I'm torn on trying to using that strategy because obviously I can't directly measure which one. All the channels aggregate, right? Our Pinterest, our social, our Facebook, all of the different places where we're getting traffic all come to the website. But once it goes through to Amazon, to the Amazon store, I only see it as website traffic. Should I be taking that traffic? Should I parse each one of those campaigns and just stop sending them to my website and just send them to my Amazon store?
Well, I like sending it to your website first for a few different reasons. Number one, you can pixel them. So at least you can make a pixeled audience. So the traffic that's coming there. You have some chance to capture their email address if they hit your website. If you have a good email capture pop-up of some sort, bottom right or in line with the content you're doing. You said they're coming there because they're looking for recipes, for instance. If you had some sort of really cold download lead magnet type thing, people that are looking for recipes are going to want more recipes. Like sign up for our daily keto recipe, weekly keto recipe, whatever it is. They'll sign up for your email list if you have other good recipes that they're interested in, and you have a chance of getting their email address. So that's reason 2. I would send them to the website. 3, you say you're optimizing it for sending to Amazon, but it doesn't mean you don't have a Shopify store still, right? I mean, like people can still bleed over and buy off your own website. There's a contingent of people out there that just don't like Amazon. They don't trust them. They don't like them. They don't like their corporate, antics, etc. They don't like big business, whatever it might be. It's interesting to me. I hear this all the time from people. They won't buy on Amazon. And so there's some portion of people that will buy on your website. And I think what you can do is take that data and extrapolate it. So like even though let's say 80%, 85, 90% of your sales go off to Amazon, the 1 or 2 that you're getting, you can then say, okay, well, that's really 10. For every one, it's really 10. For every one, it's really 5. And at least at some high level, be able to tell what your off Amazon efforts are doing for you. I do like the idea of sending traffic off to Amazon and helping with that whole flywheel effect. They love seeing outside traffic. And so from that perspective, I think it's great. And there are a lot of rules against sending at least paid traffic directly to Amazon. And so that you can't really send Facebook ads directly over to Amazon or Google AdWords ads directly to Amazon. That's either just not going to work at all, or it's against terms of service at the very least. So, having it on your own website, I think is the way to go, and I would continue that way.
So if I made an ad that went from, say, Facebook to my Amazon store, that's against policy?
I think so. I do. I know the Google links are like a Google. You're not supposed to take or do Google AdWords directly to Amazon. They want that for themselves, basically. And so it has to go through something intermediate first. That can be something as simple as like one of these link filter thingies that are out there, pixelfy.me or something like that, that'll make it look like it's coming from somewhere else, where it'll pixel your audience first and then send them off to Amazon. So then it's much harder to track. But I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that like a Google AdWords ad directly to Amazon is not allowed. I'm not 100% sure about the Facebook one. But regardless, even if you were able to do that, it's just a weird experience, like going directly from a Facebook ad to an Amazon link. I think you'll do better having it hit some sort of landing page on your own website first. You get more opportunity to sell the customer, pre-sell the customer. So you can have a long form landing page that has a video on it and maybe an email capture, and maybe some way to, the email capture offers a discount for that product, or some recipes like I was talking about, whatever it might be. You get an opportunity to pixel them. Probably the most important thing here, though, even if you were allowed to send that traffic directly to Amazon, you're going to now send even more qualified traffic to Amazon. So some portion of people are going to hit that landing page and never ultimately make it to Amazon. I think that's actually a good thing, because now a higher percentage of people that click on your Amazon link on that landing page are going to be purchasers, and that's a pretty big key. You want as high a ratio of clicks to sales on Amazon, that the conversion rate being higher is going to help you overall. And so, based on all those factors, I think that's the way to go.
That makes sense. How do you think about website speed? I read something on Shopify that every millisecond, or not millisecond, for every unit that I get my website faster, I improve conversion rates. And because of that, I don't have any of the pop-ups for email collection. I just have the embedded form at the bottom. Am I leaving emails on the table by doing that? Okay.
So, first of all, Shopify out of the box is horrendous when it comes to page speed. There are some third-party services that will help with this. If you just do a Google search of like improve my Shopify speed, there's some out there that for like $100 will go through and do some basic tweaks, like the stuff that can be done. But even with that, it's still going to, on a page speed score, going to be like 60 out of 100. It sucks. It's one of the unfortunate things about running Shopify. I don't know why they haven't fixed this yet. It drives me crazy that they seem to think that this isn't important. There are other third-party services that basically cache your Shopify website. So they download your Shopify website, and they are in between Shopify and the visitor, and they serve the Shopify pages, but in a different format that's optimized for page speed. But these services are quite expensive and really only worth it, I think, if you're doing 7 figures a year or something, or high 6 figures a year on your Shopify store. So you're probably your best bet is just to go to one of these like $100 or $200 one-time fee people to optimize these things. And then you can maybe just do some searching. It's actually an interesting question, or you can do some A/B testing yourself. All these pop-up services offer free trials. I would install a couple of them, do a before page speed test with Google, see what your score is, install the page or the pop-up email capture thing, see what the new score is. If it's relatively the same, that's good. If a couple of them are dramatically different, I would go with the one that gives you the best page speed. And it might be a fun ecom crew project for us to go out there and try 10 of these and just do the free trial and see which one gives you the best page speed. But I think that overall you're leaving money on the table by not capturing emails. I mean, especially in a business like this is a subscribe and save consumable type product that every email address is going to be worth way more in your category than anything that we're in right now, because it's expensive to get a customer, but if you can get them to buy again, which presumably you have really great macaroons, I'm going to need to have those in my cupboard all the time. As I eat them, I need more. And so that's like the dream product. And so I would definitely be focusing on getting people on subscribe and save, but also just focusing on getting email addresses, because your lifetime value of a customer should be pretty strong.
Perfect. Now, in that you mentioned properly A/B testing. A/B testing is one of those things that I need to do more of, but it's kind of like I'm looking at this huge ocean of things to A/B test, and it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Are there places like, do you have a preferred site? I've heard you talk about things like Optimizely, or I think I'm saying that right. But do you have any best practices that I could?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the absolute best practice here in your case is to forget about all this crap, because when you're doing, let's say, $500,000 a year in sales, it sounds like on Amazon, you say it's by far and away your biggest channel. That means you're doing a couple $1,000s a month on Shopify or something in that range. And you as a one-man band, as a smaller business, you have to focus on the things that are going to move the needle, not be doing the things that the $10 million brands are doing at this point. And I think that the time you're going to invest, you're going to get diminishing returns on your time compared to doing something more like making another YouTube video.
Okay. And so that even if we're not, because I think I didn't clarify the way that we have our website versus Shopify set up. So I host our actual website, Ketonia Foods, through Kinsta. And then I used to push traffic to the Shopify. Now I basically pay a $30 or whatever it is tax per month, so that I can have it, because it's for some reason it's one of the qualifications to be verified on Pinterest, and that's one of our big social channels. So I kind of we get maybe a couple of sales a month, but when I talk more about A/B testing for the website, I more mean like in that funnel from the social media or Google Ads or wherever I'm bringing the traffic from to the website, and then that optimizing the website through to Amazon. Do you think that that's still kind of pennies when I'm looking for dollars?
Maybe not as, maybe it's more valuable there, because if you're sending paid traffic or amplifying organic traffic, whatever it is, even organic traffic has a cost to it, right? I mean, you're spending time putting up the content and all those things. And so optimizing a landing page actually can be worth the time, because even like a 0.25% difference over the course of a year is a massive change. If you're sending 1,000 people a day, let's do some quick math. 1,000 people a day, 365 days a year, times 0.0025, it's an extra 1,000 people a year, right? An extra 1,000 sales a year, whatever it might be. It's 80 more sales per month, whatever. If you're going to start putting huge dollars behind this, if you find something that works, squeezing a little bit more lemon out of that fruit is important. But don't go crazy. I mean, you'll probably find that you can probably get more than a 0.25% change on some things. Maybe it's a full point or something. That's 4,000 customers a year. But you don't need to get down to the hundredths of a percent and try to just, at some point you got to just like good enough, be good enough. And I hate that, because I'm a perfectionist and I like, excelling at everything and really pushing the envelope. I always talk about, the people that win are the ones that put the little bit extra effort in. But there's also, you gotta be smart with your time. It's the most valuable commodity. You don't have an army of people, working on your behalf yet. And until you get to that spot, you got to just acknowledge, okay, I only have so much time in the day. At some point, these other things are more valuable for my time. And I got to let this be good enough. And so, yeah, there are tools for landing pages, Zipify, there's a Shogun. All of them have like A/B testing built in, like into their page builders. And if you're using WordPress, there's ones that are built in for WordPress as well.
All right. Well, and so a follow up on that, since I am someone who has, limited time. What I've been doing is repurposing all of our social media content across platforms. We make everything in the vertical 9:16 style, under 1 minute long videos, and we make it primarily for Pinterest, but then we cross post it onto Facebook, Instagram, Google My Business, and TikTok. It really, I'm hesitant to not do it because it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to just use the same content and post it. But am I wasting my time? Should I just focus unilaterally on one of them that's doing the best, or is it a shotgun approach still pretty good for social media?
Yeah, I definitely like the shotgun approach, and I think that all businesses should be repurposing their assets and putting them in as many places as you can. If you think about the time it takes to make the asset, let's just say, an hour to make the asset, to then post that on Facebook is 2 minutes. To post it on Twitter is another 2 minutes. To post it on Pinterest, another 2 minutes. It's you're leveraging your time at that point, which is the types of thing I love. It's also the type of thing that I think that when you hire your first employee, we're obviously fans of hiring somebody in the Philippines to help with a lot of these types of tasks that can be, just kind of, you make an SOP and grind through them. These are the things that they're really good at, and so when you think about things eventually, that the first things you take off your plate, I think, are these types of tasks, because you can, for about $600 a month, you could have someone doing that prolifically for you moving forward, plus a whole bunch of other things, right? And then it really can free up your time to do other stuff. But right now, that might not be something you can afford. That $600 a month expense might be too much. And so in the meantime, I think it's good that you do it. But when you start thinking a little bit further down the road, making your first hires, those are the perfect types of tasks to sub out.
Actually, it's funny that you should say that, because I do have a virtual assistant in the Philippines. She's only part-time. If you're listening to this, Rosine, hey. But she's awesome, and I wanted to make sure that I'm not wasting her time, right? Because anytime that she's doing, if she's posting on Twitter and no one's actually ever clicking on it, I have to think to myself, well, could she be doing backlink outreach or some other process that I'd like to have her doing? But no, just since we're on this, right?
Yeah.
What are some other things that you think are great things to outsource, right? So obviously posting the content that we create, that's something that's really great for a virtual assistant. What are some other things that I should be thinking about?
Yeah, our guys in the Philippines are, you just mentioned one of them, link building type outreach. The other one of my favorites is influencer outreach, especially for a product like this. You just start sending your product out to as many people as you possibly can in the influencer space, working on getting partnerships with them. There's lots of keto, lots of diet channels out there, a lot of interest in this stuff, but it's a lot of work going out and getting these partnerships and just kind of trolling through YouTube and other places to find these people. Really good for the Philippines team to do. They monitor our listings, they build our listings, they do keyword research, constantly trying to optimize our listing, making sure everything's indexed properly. You can have them do some PPC work, any customer service, like absolutely, they handle a lot of data stuff. I love what we're really working on lately, just capturing more and more data, like weekly conversion rate tracking, looking at our BSR, looking at cause and effect stuff, like when you make a change, recording the date that you made a change and all the statistics around that, and then looking back days or weeks later and seeing if that line in the sand was the thing that kind of helped or hurt something, and then going back and reiterating based on that. So there's tons of stuff that can be done. My biggest piece of advice would be to make this person full-time and instead of having them be part-time, so they can focus on just your stuff and fill their plate up with a bunch of things that that are manpower intensive, but can be done, at the $600 a month rate, that can really help free up some of your time, but also just take your business to the next level by getting those types of things done.
Perfect. That kind of brought me to the next two questions that I have. How do you measure if your influencers are worth it, right? Obviously, I've heard you talk before that you are willing to give out free product to any influencer who wants it. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But that you don't really like doing paid partnerships with influencers. That's right?
It is. I mean, we've been burned too many times trying to do the paid partnership route. We are kind of tiptoeing back into some of that again in some of the niches that we work in, because it's just hard to really create value by just sending them only product. You might be kind of in the same niche. It's also a very competitive niche. The keto space, these guys are getting thrown money at them left and right. And so, I would try to start with the people that are interested in just getting the free product. You can even do it no strings attached. You can have your VA go out and try to find all the influencers in a space, and just basically say, I want to send you some free product just to see, no strings attached. That's one way to go about it as well. I think there's lots of different ways to kind of go about it. And I would say that, it's worth giving it a try. Try just to see what kind of happens in your niche. You never know until you start doing outreach. There might be people that are thrilled to do the giveaway approach, right? Where you offer them free product and then you offer X number more bags of coconut macaroons to their audience that you ship for them. And that might be something that they're interested in. So, I definitely think it's worth a crack, and that's something I would have my people in the Philippines working on.
One more question on that same kind of thread. I've heard you talk about axing non-performing keywords in your pay-per-click campaigns on Amazon. I do the automatic campaign with the sub-campaigns that are manual, targeting generic keywords, competitor keywords, and branded keywords. But the question that I wanted to ask is more, when I'm looking in any one of my campaigns, what metrics should I be looking for to say, okay, this is a non-performing keyword? Is it just strictly ACoS?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the only measure you can really use. Make sure you give it time, and try not to make huge adjustments at once. You don't want to go from a $2.15 bid down to $1 all at once. I mean, going down incrementally is kind of important. But yeah, I mean, if your ACoS is out of control, then you need to lower the bids. And it's one of the things that's really hard to get over mentally, because like bidding on coconut macaroons is like keto macaroons or something like that is like kind of the nirvana keyword that you really want to rank for, and you hope to perform well from PPC. But it's also insanely competitive, and so because of the insanely competitive landscape, relatively low margin issue that you have now, especially because your COGS have gone up, there's stuff you gotta just walk away from. You have to just walk away from it. You aren't going to be able to probably compete in those hero keywords. The ones that are maybe better to go after are organic keto macaroons, or I'm trying to think of like other terms that people would search for around that. But the longer tail stuff might be better. Gluten-free would be a really good one. Yeah. And so I think you'll be better off there. It's better to be a big fish in a small pond than to be the small fish in this giant pond. Like everybody wants to rank for coconut macaroon, right? And so they're all throwing money at it. And a lot of them don't even understand what they're throwing money at is the problem. Like they're losing money and they don't even realize it. And when you're in something that's that competitive, when people are spending money so carelessly that they don't even know what the hell they're doing because they just, it's an ego thing, or it's a branding mechanism from some of these larger brands that just, like a McDonald's, like obviously they don't sell keto anything, but I'm just using an example. They just run TV ads like nonstop because they want to have their name in front of everybody. Well, there's people that are big national keto brands that are on Amazon doing the same thing. Like they don't give a crap about that particular ad's profitability, or they don't care yet. At some point somebody up the chain will go like, what the hell are you doing? But meanwhile, today somebody told them go spend $1 million on Amazon ads because we want to increase our presence. And so it just becomes really difficult in those exact spots to do that. And I think that, the more social, organic, off Amazon stuff like can really help with those endeavors, rather than just trying to bully your way to the top on Amazon PPC, which mathematically just isn't going to work.
Yep, definitely have learned that, and had to let I've been one of those people who spends too much on keywords because they think that they need to have the sales from that keyword. So I definitely see it's easy to do, but thank you on that one. So as far as like, this is kind of in a different direction, but we've got these emerging retail partnerships, right? These stores that are, brick and mortar type stores. And as we've kind of talked about, I'm a small business, and I'm looking at, a massive big box partnership. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, obviously to make this deal come to fruition, I'm going to need to have some employees, right? But how do you hire for a position that you don't have yet? Or how do you think about that?
What types of employees are we talking about here? You need people like on the line making snacks, or people that are in sales, making phone calls with the retailers? What types of positions are you going to be looking to hire for?
So therein lies the issue, right? So if we say get into 1,000 of this retailer, I'm going to probably need someone to just on the logistics side to help me manage getting the product from my co-packer to the three, like, to the warehouses of the retailer, and then just some of the nuts and bolts. I hate to, it's the unknown unknowns that keep me up at night, where I go, okay, there's a lot of this stuff I just don't know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the harsh reality is, when that order first comes in, I would just be prepared to tell all your family and friends that your calendar's full for the foreseeable future. You're going to be working 16, 18 hours a day for some period of time. I mean, it's a tough spot. And, I've been there where, you're still bootstrapping, like you don't have a rich uncle, or, some money tree in the backyard. And so you can't hire this person until the order's in, because you can't afford them yet. And even when the order comes in, can you really still afford them? Because you got to go buy all the inventory. The good news is that there is PO financing, which is that's actually one of the relatively easy things to get in this space. And so I would definitely look at that. I would definitely look at using a bank or a company that specializes in PO financing. You get a purchase order from a large, brick and mortar, not like national retailer, like a Target, a Whole Foods, a Walmart, Safeway, Albertsons, whatever it is. They're going to respect that PO, right? Like they understand that small businesses are in this predicament all the time. And so, they'll finance you to go get the inventory. And then maybe with your other cash, you can then justify hiring this person that's good at logistics. If you feel like that's the thing that's going to take up all the time, let's say it is a Target that places the PO and they have 5,000 stores nationwide that you have to get 6 bags of macaroons into every single store. I don't know exactly how they handle logistics, or maybe you send 2 pallets to every regional warehouse. I'm not sure exactly how they handle that, but someone has to be on top of that and not screw it up, right? Because like you get one chance with these guys, you screw something up and don't follow their crazy rules perfectly, you're just out. And so, but even still, in today's hiring environment, you're not going to get that person on board and trained up and everything on day one. So I think that the reality is that you're going to have to learn how to do it yourself, do a really good job with it, and at the same time juggle the ball of like placing the ad on Indeed or wherever it is, trying to hire that person, get them in the door, eventually train them up until you can like take a weekend off again finally after 3 or 4 months of insanity. But this is kind of the risk that you take when you go. I mean, it's all of us want that $1 million PO from one of these big retailers, and this is the chance to become like the next big national keto brand that gets recognition, that sells for 8-9 figures. But like in order to do that, like there's all these companies that have had that experience, have had the many late nights, strained relationships, all the things that come along with it to get over that hump in the early days.
That makes total sense. And yeah, I guess there really is no way to hire someone if you don't know what to tell them to do. I guess I'm just a little, I don't necessarily even think that the logistics are going to be the most time consuming thing. I think that's maybe just a little bit of tenderness, because I've had Amazon partnered 3PLs misplace pallets of coconut macaroons for 3 months, and then I get them when they have almost no shelf life left, and end up having to do stuff like fire sales, which hey, when you're on Amazon, it hurts the bottom line, but at least Amazon's not calling me up and saying, hey, you can't sell on Amazon anymore. The kind of thing that I think about is if a Target says, hey, we need these here, if I don't do exactly what they say, you can jeopardize the whole contract. So I guess, but there's a ton of things like that on all the fronts. So
100%. And I don't think it's that. It probably, the unknown's the overwhelming part, right? I don't know either. I never sold to one of these types of companies, but like, we'll figure it out. Like, you'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. That's why we're entrepreneurs. Like, whatever it is, like, you figured out all this other crap to get to the point you're at. Give yourself some credit for that. It's hard, obviously, to like, I know this personality type. I'm it. It's hard to give yourself credit for learning how to open up an Amazon account and get stuff in there and deal with all their different labeling requirements, and the fact that they lose inventory and tracking that down, and creating a listing and getting the imagery up there, doing keyword research, and then you also launch the Shopify store. You have a WordPress site. You're talking to retailers. You're in the door. You figured out all this stuff. You're going to figure out how to get the damn inventory to them. Deal with the logistics of that. It'll be crazy and overwhelming, and like a fire hose hitting you the day that it happens. But you'll figure all that out. And they're more reasonable, I would imagine, in so many ways than Amazon. Like, I mean, you got a tracking number that shows the stuff like arrived. If they actually say that it didn't arrive, like, they're going to to believe you, versus like Amazon's like, yeah, good story, man. We're not going to pay you back for it, or they don't make it easy at least. And so, I have to imagine that operation's probably more streamlined and efficient and reasonable than Amazon.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Hopefully, a major retailer is not going to tell me that my bread mix is a pesticide and then take my listing down for 5 days.
Right. Yeah. Fun times. # fun times. But again, you figured out how to get around that too, right? So, I mean, you'll figure these things out as well.
Man, Mike, we may have timed this out absolutely perfectly. I've written down some extra questions, but we went through them all, and I'm trying to remember the other stuff. I mean, final thing, we are in this it's not hyperinflation yet, but we are in a more inflationary environment. Is there any strategy for someone who's making a purchase? Say, I deal with, the Unilevers of the world, and for them, they don't care if I'm buying a pallet or 2 pallets or 4 pallets. Is there any strategy I can use to kind of help with cost of goods?
The strategy that we're employing right now, which may not be applicable for you for probably 2 reasons, but is just to buy as much inventory as we can right now, knowing that it's going to be more in the future. Like, I just don't see any situation where costs are going to go down. I think hyperinflation's here, personally. Whether, economists or people, and the government want to admit to it at this point or whatever. I'm definitely not going to get into politics stuff, but like, I don't know, we're on the inside of this stuff, right? I mean, we see what's happening ahead of time. Like shipping costs are going up, raw material costs are going up, labor costs are going up. Nothing's going down. Nothing's going to go down. There's a tight labor market that's going to continue to be a problem. I don't see this getting any better. I think that, it's just going to kind of continue to get more expensive. And so what we've done, we've bought as much as we can of next year's inventory, like already for like almost all of our brands. But we have the capital to do that. So if you don't have that ability, then, that's out. We also don't have the goods that expire. I think that your wheat gluten or whatever that ingredient you mentioned earlier that went from 80 something cents to 2 something a pound, I assume that has a shelf life. And so you can't just hoard that and stick it in the corner of a warehouse somewhere. So I think that it puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage from that perspective, but like everyone's going to be on the same playing field, right? I mean, like wheat gluten or whatever that ingredient was, which doesn't make sense because wheat gluten has carbs. So, but again, everyone's costs are going to go up. Oh, is that right? Interesting. Okay. Wheat gluten protein. Okay.
Well, because it's actually gluten. Gluten in and of itself is actually just the protein from wheat. I have endless Facebook clarifications with people where I'm like, hey, I promise it's keto. I promise I wouldn't eat it if it wasn't.
Right. Makes sense. But you can have keto and gluten free. Then you can't have wheat gluten.
Yeah, correct. That and there's no scorn like the scorn of someone who is gluten free who thought that the thing that they bought were gluten free. Like they will let you know.
Right.
They'll find you at the end of the earth if you go. What's like line from Pulp Fiction? You go like if you're at a rice paddy in Indonesia, they're gonna find you, like hunting you down. Any other questions or things I can help with before we sign off for the day?
No, I was gonna ask you about some of the FBA roll-up companies, but it's just when I look at my P&L right now, I'm like, man, I'd love to, if the market is as hot as it is right now, I'd love to be a part of it, but I'm not going to leave a ton of money on the table while my P&L is sagging because of a recent price increase. So I think that's one of those things where maybe I can follow up call with you at some point in a year and talk about how that looks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing I will tell you is that you happen to be in one of the few niches in e-commerce that could potentially sell for like a multiple of revenue, or where the P&L is highly disregarded in some way based on all the traditional types of things that you've heard of and that we've seen in any business that we've sold or that we've purchased. But if you have a incredibly fast growing keto type product, diet supplement, food type products, subscribe and save, repeat customer type thing with brand loyalty, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of caveats that kind of go along with this. But you mentioned Unilever, like those types of companies of the world buy those things at crazy multiples. Like everything you've ever thought of is out the door. You're not at that size. You have to be, doing millions in revenue before that's even something that they're going to even look at. But if you can get these retail agreements and you can survive this rocket ship craziness that may ensue over the next couple of years, there is definitely that potential to sell for just crazy money.
That's the kind of light at the end of the tunnel that I love to hear, and may the strong survive.
Absolutely. Cool, man. So definitely pop back on in a year, follow up with us, let us know how things are going. We'll talk about the Amazon roll-up landscape, how things are going at that point, and potentially selling and all those other types of things, and what the next steps are for you. But we wish you the best of luck. I'm going to go find some of your tasty stuff on Amazon. I always like to support other Amazon sellers. If people want to find out more about you and your products, where can they go to get them?
They can go to ketoniafoods.com or any social media at Ketonia, Ketonia Foods. with an S.
Perfect. I'm already clicking on your Amazon listing here as you were saying that, and going to get myself and the wife some coconut macaroons and try those first. So really appreciate it. Best of luck with you, and good luck with everything.
Really appreciate the time, Mike. It's been great talking to you. Have a good one, all right?